So President Ramaphosa has just praised Zimbabwe's land reform. You know, the very policy that crashed the economy. Today we're unpacking what that was all about, the reason behind Woolworths' mixed results, and why our UK trade deal isn't exactly working as advertised. And be sure to stick around for the Wildcard as we look back at what was actually behind Cape Town's supposed UFO sightings. My friends, if you're enjoying the show, be sure to like and subscribe. And now, with all that out the way, let's get into it. So in the words of many, President Ramaphosa has just scored the biggest own goal of his presidency. You see, speaking in Harare last week, he praised Zimbabwe's land reform program, which is the very policy that most economists say tanked their economy. So as expected, the DA wasted no time calling it reckless and dangerous, arguing that it signals what the ANC really has in mind with South Africa's own Expropriation Act. I mean, investors are already nervous, and a speech like that doesn't exactly calm the waters. So for those who've blurred the history, Zimbabwe's fast-track land seizures in the early 2000s stripped white farmers of land almost overnight. Now, these productive farms were handed over without clear title deeds or state support. And so, as a result, within years, food output collapsed, the currency imploded, and one of Africa's bread baskets became a famine zone. I mean, millions were driven into poverty, and compensation battles over displaced farmers still drag on today. So critics say that invoking that disaster while South Africa is rolling out its own expropriation law isn't just tone deaf, it's economically dangerous. I mean, agricultural groups warn that food security and jobs could be at stake if reform is mishandled. And with the DA already dragging the Expropriation Act to court, Ramaphosa's words have turned land reform into a fresh fault line inside the already fragile GNU. Furthermore, they've stirred fears that South Africa could be edging towards its own Zimbabwe 2.0. So Woolworths just posted its full year results, and it is a tale of two businesses, my friends. You see, at home, its food division is absolutely sending. Abroad, though, its Australia division is dragging the group down. So for the year to end June, Woolies sales rose 11% to 52.4 billion rand, with online orders up 33% and Dash surging over 40%. Now, Woolies price hikes ran ahead of its rivals, which its CEO pinned on its largest share of premium categories such as coffee and chocolate. Crucially, though, volumes still went up, showing that customers absorbed the higher prices. But you see, the glow fades once you cross the Indian Ocean. Woolworths' Australian clothing division, the Country Road Group, saw sales slump by more than 5%, with higher discounting, weak consumer demand, and a softer Aussie dollar hammering profits. Now, the segment chalked up a 917 million rand write-down, forcing Woolies to slash its dividend by nearly a third. So the result here is that group earnings fell by 24%. Analysts say that Woolies' food arm is world-class, but until Australia steadies, it's carrying more than its fair share of the basket. So the US's 30% tariff hike on South African goods has done more than just sting our exporters. It's actually exposed how messy our export system really is. I mean, when one of our biggest markets shuts the door, it shows how badly we're using the ones that are supposedly wide open. So the UK is a prime example here. You see, under a post-Brexit deal, South African products should be entering tariff-free. Yet last year, 2.7 billion rand worth of cars, plus millions in wine, fruits and nuts, still paid full duties. Now, the catch here is something called rules of origin, which is essentially paperwork proving that enough of the product is made locally. And when that's not in order, the UK charges standard tariffs. Critics argue that it is baffling that our own Department of Trade isn't helping our biggest exporters clear these hurdles. You see, the department says it is now working on these fixes, from guiding wine producers through the process to pushing more flexibility in car manufacturing rules. But until then, billions are being left on the table. And before we cruise on to our final daily Bagel Bite of the work week, here's a couple other headlines worth knowing. For starters, the sale of second-hand vehicles from Chinese brands on AutoTrader jumped 89% in the first half of the year. BYD led the charge, and analysts say that it reflects a real shift in consumer priorities towards price and tech. Kolisi has recovered from injury to start at number 8 against the All Blacks at Eden Park this weekend, though Jesse Creel will keep the captaincy. The Boks are chasing their first win at the Auckland Fortress since 1937. And TimeBank has joined Home Affairs banking partnerships, meaning that Smart ID and passport applications will reportedly soon be possible at over 1,000 kiosks inside Pick n Pay, Boxer, and Foschini. And on to our final Bagel Bite of the work week. This one's going to help if you've watched the movie The Social Network. Let's see what you got. The question is, before founding Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg created a website that compared people's attractiveness side by side. What was it called? Was it A, Face Off, B, Rate My Photo, or C, Face Mash? Bonus points if you know in what year this took place. And on to our wildcard section. A decade ago, Cape Town nearly made contact with aliens. Or so it seemed. In 2015, the city made global headlines when massive UFO-shaped clouds stacked over Table Mountain. So no, they weren't spaceships, they are called lenticular clouds. And so how interesting is this? They form when strong moist air hits a barrier, like Table Mountain, forcing it up and down in waves. Now, at the crest of these waves, the air cools and condenses into a cloud. And at the trough, it warms and evaporates. And that cycle repeats, freezing those smooth, saucer-shaped layers in place. Now, the kicker here is that they look completely still, but the air inside them is moving like a conveyor belt. Pilots hate them because of the turbulence. Photographers love them because they look like flying saucers. So either way, no alien invasion. At least not yet. And as for that Bagel Bite, the answer was Face Mash, a site that Zuckerberg threw together in 2003 that let Harvard students rate each other's looks. It crashed the university servers within hours, Zuck nearly got expelled, and it was shut down just days later. It was a notorious campus scandal, but not the blueprint for Facebook, which only came about a year later. And my friends, that's it for today's show, and that's it for the work week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and actually more so, just thanks so much for the continuous support. We've got so many exciting plans for Daily Bagel over the coming months and years, and without you guys watching and supporting and commenting and engaging, this wouldn't be possible. So thanks so much. I hope you guys all have a cracker Friday, a banging weekend, and we'll catch you all same time on Sunday evening. Cheers.